And good afternoon to everybody. It's just about time to start, but we'll stall around a little bit here for some more to join us. I know we've got about 7 or 8 who intend to be here. Before we kick in, and just to let you know, my name's Kevin Tippett. If you're not familiar with me already, I'm a volunteer with Rivers East Village, and I help out with the volunteering and the tech. I work very closely with Carol. I'm extremely thankful for her. She guides me in a lot of good things. And I had suggested that perhaps a little presentation on online safety could be in order. In my last job at a corporation, one of the things I was responsible for was end user cybersecurity training, which was a lot of fun, and it gave me a lot of experience and information. And I want you to know that one of the things we're going to do here today is have a discussion more than a presentation. Um, but also, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. And it's partially because we only have a bit of time and everybody is different, needs different things. But also because it's the awareness of this stuff that's going to help you and keep you safe and protected. Not even so much the details, and you'll see what I mean as we move along. Um, I do want this to be a discussion. Please, if you have any experience or questions about what we're going over, let us know. Raise your hand, and I will hopefully notice that you've raised your hand. If not, please make a polite noise and let me know that I haven't seen this. This is a discussion. Um, I was asked to present myself by someone as kind of an expert on this. I don't trust experts. This field is too fast, and things that I'm going to discuss today, I probably should follow up with another one in 6 months or a year because things will be changing. But again, it's the awareness that we're after, not the specifics so much. Any questions? Cool. Thank you. Um, the discussion we're having is, as I say, an overview, and it's going to be on the major aspects of protecting yourself on the internet. The history of it, you may be aware from our popular culture, is that bad guys would try and sneak into systems using technical means. And we've all seen that in the movies, whether or not it's realistic. It's an actual scenario where they're trying a technical way to break in. That still happens, and we have to be aware of it. And fortunately, we are protected from it. Um, but really, the focus of the bad people these days isn't so much on the technology, really, but the people. It's an old game, it's a scam, and it's wrapped into a technical wrapper, is all. But it's hacking people, not computers. We'll talk about the technical, though. Couple of caveats on this. Again, it's more of a discussion than a presentation, so please don't let me act like I'm at a podium. I want to be more in a circle with you. And please, of course, be courteous. Mute your microphone if you're not speaking. I've taken the precaution of bribing my wife and dogs to be away at this time. Hopefully, it'll work. The other big one is that my experience is primarily with Windows, and I have some experience with Linux, but that's not here nor there. I'm primarily a Windows user, and my knowledge is of Windows. If you're a Macintosh user, please be aware the examples here have the same corollary in Macintoshes. I've never been a participant of the Windows Macintosh war, and I can tell you that Macintosh in Apple, fine systems, fine universes to exist in. I'm not that familiar with them, but I know the stuff we're going to be covering is in Apple as far as the technical, what we're talking about. Social, that's with us. That's you and I. I'm also going to record this presentation, if you don't mind. I will make it available for your review later, and we'll also be offering it on our website for review. Again, not details, more topics, but they are common, they are important, and I have a lot of experience in knowing that when people take this into account, it can save them quite a bit. I had mentioned the two arenas, if you will, the technical and the social. The technical we'll cover a little bit here, but I do want you to know that there are companies out there that spend a great deal of time and manpower on protecting us with their antivirus, their firewalls, their systems. Vast teams of people are doing the heavy lifting for us. So we'll cover it. It's a concern. You may want to check things to make sure that they're there and configured the way perhaps they should be. But again, don't worry about the technical so much. It's largely handled for us. It's the social we got to worry about. So having said that, I'm going to get into technical. Rita, did you have a question? Oh, you're muted at the second. Oh, okay. Okay. If you do have a question, don't forget to unmute yourself. But let's take a look at this technical stuff. The first one is the antivirus, and it could be considered the most important, and it's the one we don't have to worry about too much. As near as I can tell, every computer that ships, Macintosh or Windows, comes with at least a trial version of antivirus, and you probably ran across it as you were setting up your system if you got a new one. You'll want to check to make sure you have one. Probably you do. And it will protect you. It will protect you from the technical, automated things that could happen. By this, I'm talking about little bits of software that are automatically fired onto your computer and do all sorts of nasty stuff. They can break things, they can prevent you from accessing things, they can record and transmit the keystrokes from your keyboard. All this sort of stuff can happen. The antivirus stops it, and pretty effectively. I haven't heard much in the way of vast outbreaks of anything happening. Again, these people spend a lot of time and money protecting us, and of course we pay them money to do that. Good old capitalism, and it does work. When you have it, and I'll show this to you, you want to make sure that you have it and that it's configured to update. If you have antivirus software and you've installed it, chances are it installed properly, but you want to double check to make sure it's updated. And by this, and by the way, this is just an example of a antivirus. It happens to be WebRoot, one I'm using at the moment. I've used many of them. But what I'm showing here is in settings, the little checkbox that says automatically download and apply updates. They're not just program updates to tell the program how to run. These are updates of compiled computer viruses. These guys spend a lot of time and money getting them, packaging up into a file and making it available to your antivirus software, which downloads it, incorporates it, and poof, you're pretty much up to date on what you need to protect you. Um, if you're curious, please root around in your software and check and make sure this is here. Antivirus is useful in not just sitting there and updating itself. It's configured to scan your system. It's good that it's there, but every so often it should go in and just look at everything on your computer. You probably don't have to configure it to do this. It probably came automatically configured. For instance, this example, I installed WebRoot, and this is what it set itself up for. It scans the system every day between 10 a.m. and when it's basically turned on. A good thing, you want to check this, and a small little speed bump here to talk about that is not as bad as it used to be. McAfee in days past was famous for just hogging the computer when it ran. And it wasn't the only one. When a system scan would go, it would just take up all the resources, and you would see very noticeably your computer slowed down. Chances are it was scanning. And if you go into it and change the frequency from every day to, say, every week, that would be okay. But the time, if you're a person who leaves your computer on all the time, and I think a lot of us do, what the heck, schedule it for 2 in the morning. Nobody's going to be using it. Nobody's going to be competing for resources. We'll run and you'll get a report afterwards if anything was found. That's an entire system scan. I want you to know also that you can scan on your own individual files. What you've got on the screen before you now is a screenshot, a representation of Windows Explorer, File Explorer, it's also called. It shows the folders on your computer and the files. Now, when you're looking at this, you can click on a single file, as I had done here, to highlight Slack setup.exe. I'm very distrustful of exe files. And when I right click on it with the mouse, the right mouse button, I get this pop-up menu. And because I installed the software, you can see here, scan with WebRoot. It's been my experience, they all offer this. So if you get a file and it's something you may not trust and it's on your computer, you can scan it. And the nice thing here is, unlike the system scan, you can set it to save the results in a file away. This one will pop up pretty dang quickly with the results of your scan. And again, just an example of an antivirus, WebRoot. But here it shows that I scanned one file. There were no processes in the file running, so it couldn't scan any there. It actually scanned it 50 times. Pretty good. And it did it all within 3 seconds. Here it's telling me no threats were detected and no threats are active. I kind of like to know that. It's reassuring. That's for me. Has anybody come upon anything similar with their anti-software or antivirus software? Any kind of pop-up messages from time to time, or recent experience installing it? Oh, take a look at it if you have time. It's stuff that is pretty major on what can automatically protect you without you doing really anything. It's there. These technical things, it's an old game. The turf is known, and the unknown turf that does come along is very quickly discovered. It's nice. Things are done for us and protect us very well. Um, oh, Rita, please unmute yourself and let me know what's going on. Yeah.
I just have a question. How does antivirus software, if it does, relate to devices? Like I am trying to avoid, I'm retired, and so I really have very little need for a computer.
Sure.
And I rely pretty much on an iPad and am actually looking to ultimately eliminate a computer and utilize an iPad completely.
Um,
Is that a safe, is
um,
it a safe device or?
Actually, here we are dealing with Macintosh. And although I'm not a Macintosh user, I can tell you I am extremely impressed with their security. Um, what what I should have also mentioned at the start of this, we're talking about desktop computers, Macintosh or Windows, and laptops. I really am restricting it to that. The
Okay.
iPad and the tablets and the smartphones are different beasts. Um, I'm familiar with Android, somewhat familiar with the iPhone, but again, I can tell you the iPhone is, excuse my French, damn secure. The iPad is very much the same, and I'm not that familiar with it. So please explore, and I will give you some resources here in a
Okay.
bit as well. Um,
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one thing your system has, I'm confident, is a firewall. You may not be aware of it. It works way in the background, and the firewall is just like the old-fashioned real firewalls that are built to stop things. The old ones, firewall, fire. Here, we're talking about internet traffic. Um, when you send an email or you look at anything on your computer from anywhere else that's not on your computer, the internet, it's a hugely technical process. And that email amounts to a scintilla of what is being transmitted to your computer or actually your device. To get that information there, the email, the data, as it were, is encapsulated in 7 layers of information that is picked apart, read, and sent on as it's going from the source on the internet to your computer. And that internet traffic, not the data itself, but the encapsulation, can tip off if bad things are being attempted. Again, a really old game, very well known turf that is expanded as much by the good guys as the bad guys. And when you set up your system, it was set up. You probably have never come upon any issues or messages from it. Um, so you really don't have to bother with it. You may have to at some point, if you were, say, working for a company but working at home, there's a real likelihood that they would give you directions on how to set up your firewall to allow their traffic, their very sensitive traffic, into your computer. Firewalls are a great thing. They come with Windows. They come with Macintosh. They come with most all routers. You know, that wireless router modem that you have, it probably has a firewall in it that's configured in by the company that's serving you and is taking care of stuff. It uses the predetermined rules. It's always on. It doesn't slow your system down at all. It may block something from happening, in which case we got something to look at. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, if you have a question, comment, or concern, and it's after this discussion, please contact us. I'll give you some information on how to do that. If you're a member, you already know you can submit a request, and one of us will get to you pretty quickly. And if you're a volunteer, please contact us through the website or our email address, and I'll provide that too. And if you're not a member or a volunteer, I encourage you to become one. And really, I'll share stuff. I might
Kevin?
for it. Yes.
Kevin, this is Dorothy.
Yes, Dorothy.
I'm on the phone, not on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
I have an old Word computer, which is way out of date, and I've gotten a new Chromebook.
Okay, great.
And the old computer is so old that it's not being updated and supported anymore.
Right.
And I had gotten some Norton LifeLock security for that. I was told by my son that Chromebook is secure, and that I've also been told that the Norton LifeLock is incompatible with my Chromebook. And if so, what do I need to know about how to make sure that Chromebook is secure?
Okay. First, I just want to mention your old computer. Take it offline, please, if it isn't already. If it's plugged in.
Oh, no.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
No, it's not on at all. No, I'm just on the iPhone right now.
Bless you. Bless you. Good deal. The Chromebook is a very interesting creature in that it's much the same as your smartphone. And pretty much all that you do with it is in the cloud. The word processing programs that come with it, all of that stuff is in the cloud. And I'll talk about the cloud a little bit more, but because of that, you have very little to worry about on security.
Good.
If you're using the cloud, and I'll talk more about it a little bit, don't worry too much. Don't worry too much, especially if you're using an established cloud like Apple or Google or Amazon or something like that. They've got money and they protect us.
They're one like it's automatically in there, then you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay.
And it's got some further protections too that I'll cover a little bit when I'm talking about cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. God, I appreciate it.
Okay, sure.
Kevin?
Yeah.
I'd like to share with Dorothy that I have 3 Chromebooks operating in my home, and my 90-year-old has one, and I'm very comfortable setting them up and answering questions on. They are different. They don't have Windows. They don't have, the Apple stuff. It's a different operation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and who is this?
This is Carol.
Oh, Carol. Hi, yeah. Yeah, I have found that from the Word to the Chromebook, just the screen and a whole lot of things are different that and there's no instruction booklet that comes with the Chromebook. And my son says, well, you don't need it. It's so intuitive. And it's not intuitive to me. so maybe at some point you and I could just talk about the Chromebook.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, just how to use it. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Chromebooks are pretty doggone wonderful these days, and they're coming along so much more wonderful. I hate to say it, but because of the pandemic. But I'm not really covering Chromebooks. I'm covering more Macintosh and Windows. But a lot of this, Dorothy, is for people. I wish you had a visual display, but I'll describe what we're going over as we move on. Any more questions at this point, anybody, on what I've been covering? Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, Dorothy, I'm sorry, you're a little out on this one. It's a graphic I'm displaying. and it wouldn't apply in any event. There's, again, I'm using Windows. Macintosh has the same thing, but in Windows, to see stuff in the lower right-hand corner of your window, you've got the clock that tells you what time it is, a little message thing that I pay attention to. But what I want to point out is the chevron here, this little up arrow. If you click on that, what will happen is on the Windows machine, you'll see everything that's running in the background. And for instance, this is my password safe, which I'll talk a little bit about, the antivirus software, Microsoft Edge, I never wanted that. Bluetooth, but what the arrow is pointing to is the Windows security. And it's really, from a nerd point of view, fun. From a person using the computer, it's really important. If you click on that, what you'll see, as you see here before you, is the security at a glance of your Windows machine. And just at a glance, I can see I'm doing pretty well here for virus and threat protection, account protection, firewall, browser control, device security. I've got green check marks. If there was a red check mark, and I've had them many times, I play too much. What I found is you click into it and you get a message, and that message is not necessarily written in gobbledygook. Granted, I'm a nerd, but I think they're pretty clear language on those messages that will tell you what is or is not going on and what you should do to take care of it. It's simple, it's straightforward. And if you come upon this and you've got a red check mark, please investigate it. If you need assistance, please let us know, or your son or neighbor, somebody. Often the best resources for us are the people we know. If you come upon something that no one's really familiar with, or you can't quite figure out yourself, because it's intuitive, yeah, right, let us know and we'll be there to help you. These systems, again, the technical part is very good. It's set up, and it's pretty dang rare when something bad leaks through. Now, before I talk about strong passwords, has anybody had any sort of experience with the technical yet? It's possible you will. Not if you follow these recommendations. Now, technical strong passwords. I could go on for a long time about passwords, and please, if I start to, interrupt me. But there's Dorothy, on my screen, I'm displaying a graphic showing about strong passwords, and that there's two means of hacking passwords, and there's three, and I'll talk about the third one. But basically, for people who do not know you and do not have access to you personally, they can go to your Facebook account and research you. And for this one, I've got a very fun example. There's many current ones, but I'm going to go back to the presidential election of 2012. And it was during that election that the vice presidential candidate, Sarah Palin, had her Yahoo email account hacked. And it was by a kid. It was by a kid who was bored. And what he did is he went to Sarah Palin. He knew she had a Yahoo account. That's not hard to figure out. But what he did is he went to her Facebook account, which was public, and tried the name of her high school, and it worked. Please don't use the name of your high school, the name of your pet, your favorite color, anything that could be publicly known about you. And I'm going to go a little bit further here and say that when you're at a website and you're setting up your security and they ask you for those specific security questions, what was your mother's maiden name? Lie. Don't give them the truth that can be found out. Now, when you do that, make sure you record what the answers are. I've done it before, and it's a pain when you forget the answer and you need it. So make sure you have those recorded. Another way of breaking your password, oh, this is a good one, and it's called brute force. And what it is, somebody has your username, not hard to find out. Your email address usually has it. But then they will go and try and log in as you using a computer that will randomly generate until it gets through, sometimes never, just randomly guess millions of combinations of letters. And computers are patient. They just keep toiling away. There is encryption out there that's pretty common that we do use. You use it as well, I'm pretty sure. That makes it very difficult, perhaps impossible to crack it. What does save us on this, though, is that, well, that computer is really patiently working on it and may someday very well come up with a password and gain entry. People are impatient. They're not going to wait years for this to happen. So if somebody's trying brute force, it's been researched, and eventually they either get in pretty quickly because it was a simple password, or they get tired of waiting for the results because it is a complex password. By complex password, I mean use uppercase and lowercase letters, use numbers, use the special characters if you can. Some sites don't allow it, but if you can, use pound and at and that sort of thing. Don't spell a word, and make it at least 10 characters long. They're really hard to crack. And if you use a password safe and the password generator that comes with it, you should be fine. I mean, in my password safe, which is an old relic, but I'm a nerd, I click a button and a password is generated that is 18 characters long, has upper, lowercase, numbers, special characters, and I couldn't remember if I tried. Good thing I don't have to, because it's in a password safe. Password safes are great. Please use one. If you're not, please consider using one. I'll be sending some information on them. They're wonderful. And with my password safe, I have one password that I have to remember, and that's to the safe itself. It is a password that is not written down on a yellow sticky note anywhere, the third way of cracking a password. And it's so personal, I don't even think my dogs know what it is, much less my wife. I have to make an exception on that. It occurs to me it will be written down somewhere, and that's going to be in my will to my wife. Password safe, password generator. Colette, you've got a question.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
In a lot of sites, when you have to log in, they ask you if you want to save your password on that site. Is that a good idea?
I don't think so. With a fair amount of fudge factor here, I do not do that on my laptop. And that's because at a seminar one day, it was brought home in a very rude way, I thought. in that the fellow who I paid money to listen to said, "You are aware that your laptop was built to be stolen, aren't you?" He put it very confrontational, and I apologize for saying it that way. But bear in mind, if you save your password and it's a laptop and your laptop is stolen and you're not using two-factor authentication, I'll come up to that in a bit, they got what they need. So I generally do not save passwords at all on my laptop, and a lot on my desktop. It's your own personal comfort level with this. Um, I've been working at it long enough where it's quite possible I could be labeled paranoid. Um, but as the saying goes, that doesn't mean they're not after me. Is anybody here using a password safe at the moment? And what is it? Carol, you're muted. There we go.
Unmuted now. I use LastPass, and I've been using it for several years, and I subscribe to it so that I can use it on all of my computers
LastPass.
and my smartphone. So
Okay.
they offer that.
Now, LastPass, that one is a web service.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That is a very common one. It's a very good one. Research them when you use them. I myself, my password safe is not a web service. I'm a nerd. I could do it. I installed it on all my devices, and I have the data file that contains the actual passwords on the cloud, and I can access that. But the program itself is on my computer. LastPass and others, I believe, are not installed on your computer. I'm not sure, but they are largely web-based. The one I use isn't at all. I'll be sending you information about password safes. If you're not using one, please go through it. Please use it. Two more things about passwords. There are a lot of websites that offer you to log in using your Facebook or Google accounts. Please don't do that. For the same reason, I'm asking you, please use a different password for everything. Please do not use a single username and a single password for everything. That's just the keys to the kingdom, not just your bank account, but to everything you've got. So please, and really a password safe makes it possible. Over the years, I probably got 500 in my, a lot of them I don't use, but I don't know a single one. I'm not even going to bother to try because I have a password safe. I mentioned two-factor authentication when Colette asked about it. Is anybody using it at the moment other than myself? Carol. Okay, thank you. What two-factor authentication is actually kind of a two-device authentication. Your username and your password are credentials that authenticate you. And you enter them in at a website and boom, you're in. Two-factor authentication, and I'll give you a little example here, is when you go to a website, you enter in your username and your password, and a code is transmitted to you, possibly an email, but also I prefer my phone. It's transmitted to my phone as a text message. I take the information, I plug it into the website, and now I'm in. My username and password were insufficient to get in. Much more secure. And let me show you how it looks for me now. Android and Windows. Windows not so much because we're dealing with a website. I go to my credit union here, and actually I could recommend a river mark, even though I don't like making recommendations. But what I do is I plug in my username and I plug in my password and I click the log in. And what I get is this. A message pop up, a window for secure login, and I'll explain why it says it's looking as if I'm coming in from an unrecognized device. It's a little of what we were talking about, Colette. And I have the options. I can have it texted to me, which I prefer, or I could have it call me and listen to a robotic, maybe not robotic voice. I've never had it happen, done it. Or I could have it sent to my email. Much better. And I want to pause for a second and point out the concern that the professionals who set this up have for us. It's been known in the old days, somebody would be at an airport or a coffee shop and people would look over their shoulder. It could happen here. They're not going to learn anything about me. They're going to learn just the last 4 digits of my phone number. They mask the others. You don't know what my phone number is. And same with my email. It's just an example of the concern that people have for the systems and for us. If you're not using two-factor authentication, please consider it. When I plug in, when I click that text me, within a minute, I get this. What they're looking at, Dorothy, is on the left side of my screen. I've got an example of what I see on my cell phone. And on the right-hand side of the screen, I've got a magnification of the message that I received. And it says RCCU, Riverwalk Credit Community, access code. Your access code is 094401. I make note of that. I go back to the website for my credit union, and there is a field there to enter the code. And I enter it in. Down at the bottom of this box, I think this is important, are 2 buttons. And different configuration for different sites, but with two-factor authentication, I always get this message regardless of what system. I can register the device that I'm dialing in from, as it were, and I will never be met with that two-factor authentication again on that site on this device. I recommend you click no, the other button. This is a public device. When you do that, you'll be prompted for this code every time. You got a laptop, please use it. I always click that regardless of desktop or laptop. And that is why it says you're looking, or you are logging in from an unrecognized device. That's why I forced it that way, as it were. It's not that it's broken or anything like that. Please consider two-factor authentication. And I am going to mention here that, Colette, go ahead, please.
So you're talking about other organizations that are requiring two-factor authentication. This isn't something we can set up.
No. I had to go to my credit union and—
I know, it's in my credit union too.
Yeah.
And it's on a couple of other sites that a number of other sites actually.
Right.
Various formats, either read this or they'll send you something. And
Right.
so I think probably all of us have come across this.
Possibly not, because I do know, especially from experience yesterday, you have to set it up, not set up your machine, but set up your authentication at that website. When you log in, look for a link. They don't all have it yet, but they are getting it. and look for
Oh,
that
so you,
link. When it's
okay, so
there.
you're saying that it's not automatic from
No,
these websites?
no, it's by website.
Oh, okay.
And yesterday, it was my time to pay bills, and as I went to my Best Buy account, and I got into it, and I went, Kevin, you're talking about security these days. I set it up for two-factor authentication. I had to. It wasn't even that prominent. I looked for it. And what I was going to mention is how fast things move. This is very secure. It's highly recommended. And in the past few days, Microsoft came out and said, if you're doing this, use an app. And by that, they're talking about an authenticator app that you can download to your computer, or actually your phone. It's on your phone. And instead of going through this rigmarole of copying and entering the code, much the same actually, you click the button and the application on your phone will provide you with the code. That's becoming the way to do it. It's in the early phases yet, so I'm still learning that. I'm using the authenticator on a couple of sites, but it's not that widespread yet. But as an example, these things are moving along and the good guys are on top of it. Any other questions about the two-factor authentication? Cool, cool. Okay. Technical, we've gone over it. We've looked at the need for antivirus, of perhaps being curious and making sure it's configured the way it needs to be and not interfering with stuff as well. You have a firewall now, you're aware of it. Should you get a message about it, you'll go, oh, that's about a firewall. And you'll be able to either deal with it or get somebody to help you. Strong passwords, technical and as mandatory as possible. You're seeing that at a lot of websites that you sign up for where you plug in what you hope to be a password and it comes back and says, nope, that's not complex enough. And the two-factor authentication. And please, again, don't use one username and password for anything, separate ones for everything. Okay. Now, the hard part. The hard part, and unfortunately for a lot of bad people, the successful part. And that's people. There's no technical solution to what is becoming very successful. And I'm talking here primarily about phishing and unsafe websites. Phishing is evil. Dorothy, what I'm showing on the screen is that phishing is a very useful technique, and it's probably the most successful technique of cheating people out of their money. What happens is you'll get an email, and that email is going to have a link in it, maybe an attachment, and the whole purpose of it is to get you to click on it. So yeah, that link it activates something technical, but it takes a human to click on it, and that's going to be the person in front of the computer. We're going to talk about fish. We're going to be looking at some examples. I wish you were here for that, Dorothy. But that's the missile. We'll also talk about the payload of what a phishing attack can accomplish. Again, they're made against people. we read about them all the time, unfortunately, and hospitals, local governments are often specific targets. And then we're talking about spear phishing, when they specify a person and they try and con that person out of information. And it works. Hospitals. There's a person in Germany who actually, they attribute her death to because of a phishing email. Those are organizations. The technology is so cheap that they also just spam out stuff, and you got to be aware of it. It does happen to us, and not just to the people at corporations. So what does a phishing email look like, and how can you tell? Okay, on my screen and on your screen, I'm displaying an example of an email. And for those of you with a view, can anybody tell me what might tip you off about this? What we've got, it appears to be an email from Global Pay, and it's telling us that our account has been restricted. And if we want to continue using their service, please click on the attachment and update your login information. Now take a look at that, those of you that can, and let's really kind of parse out what this email could be really about. I'll guide you a little bit. It's from Global Pay, vt@globalpay.com, or so it appears, sure. And it's about restore my account, assuming it's to me. And here in the to, it says David. That to me tells me something's amiss. If it's a service that I'm using, they know who I am, they know my last name, and they will use it. Other things here, anybody? Again, it's so subtle, this stuff. But a legitimate corporation is very unlikely to ask you to enter information from a link in an email. They won't. They'll give you other directions on what to do, to go to a website, that sort of thing. And there's some stuff to consider there we'll cover. But if this were me, I would call somebody at Global Pay and say, is this legitimate? And in fact, in this case, get through to no one, and I would ignore it. What do you think, Colette?
Almost every time I get something that's legitimate, it's always got like the last 4 numbers of my account. It will reference the account specifically.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, and this doesn't. So in addition, there's a word spelled incorrectly here. Please is, and very often the language is just not normal.
I got to tell you, kid, you're good. You're good. You're looking for all the right things. And on this and all suspicious emails, consider calling to find out if it's real, especially if it's something that you don't use or have not come upon before. Why the heck are they contacting you?
I did have a question, Kevin.
Yeah.
I do click on the emails now just to see whether it's a Social Security scam or it's a mortgage scam, or if, I'm just curious about, is it a Nigerian prince?
My good friend.
And so just opening the email is not going to trigger anything, right?
Correct. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to come up to another little caveat here in a bit, and it goes back to being the subtlety of it and calling people to find out if the source is legitimate and just really looking at the email and doing nothing else. But we'll get to that in a second. Anything more on this one? Okay. Okay, Dorothy, what I'm showing on the screen now is on the left-hand side, an example of a fish. Looks to me like a spam. Comes from hotels.com. And anybody got oh, and on the right-hand side of the screen, Dorothy, I've got a blow-up of the information of where it came from and who it's to. Colette, go for it.
Their website or their email account is, obviously phony.
Yeah, very much so to me too. What we're looking at, Dorothy, on the screen on the right-hand side on this blow-up of the address is it says hotels.com, and then in those brackets that the actual or supposed email address is, it's got hotelscom@rocketpowered.com. What that rocketpowered.com is, the Rocket Powered is a domain. And corporations are egomaniacs. They like to brand everything possible. And a corporation will take their own domain. They'll pay the money and set it up as, for instance, hotels.com. And the email address would have whatever that preference is. For instance, my email address is kevinotippett@gmail.com. Theirs would be, if legitimate, hotel reservations or reservations at hotel.com, not rocketpowered.com. Oh, so many stories about egotistical executives, but overall, that spirit of the corporation is an egomaniac that wants you to know who they're dealing with, including the domain. Carol, what's going on?
Well, I was just having a hard time seeing it because it was so small, but I wanted to let everybody know that you can make your PowerPoint bigger on my own computer. I just grabbed the right edge and made it bigger.
Thank you.
So if anybody else is having a hard time reading that, just wanted to let you know you can do that.
Sometime they'll perfect it where I know what people are looking at for sure. Okay. So some spam is really attractive, especially if you're a nerd tech. Some of the stuff is just wonderful. And I really don't pay any attention to it to begin with, but occasionally I'll look and go, that is really not kosher. It's not from whoever they purport to be. Okay. Now, this, what's on my screen, Dorothy, appears to be an invoice or a communication from Best Buy. And I got to admit, I'm pretty familiar with it. But anybody, Dorothy, I'm sorry, you're kind of left out on this one with no display. But for the rest of you, please take a look and tell me what you think could be wrong with it.
Fashion Lab, really?
In my mind, I was trying to justify that and thinking, okay, Best Buy, they make wearables. No, they don't. They sell. No, that's not kosher at all. Anything else? This has several, and I'm not going to let us go until we find them.
So the 2 is Dave with a small d. A professional business would not have used that.
I would hope so. And I don't know as I'd do business with somebody, a corporation who addresses me that way. I'm very stuffy. There's more.
It's there's a misspelling in the Best Buy ID.
Excellent. I hadn't actually caught that one. Okay. Any guesses at all? Okay. The fashionlab.com.ua. That's kind of looks legitimate to me in a sense. Okay. UA, that means it's coming. No, that's not right at all. Fashionlab.com. You will see .coms something from time to time, but not from Best Buy. I know Best Buy to the point where they send me information and they do want to be friendly in the letter. Up here, they will
They don't
list,
put sir and madam.
they will list Kevin Tippett in too, but down here they try and build that rapport by calling me Kevin. I thought about telling people my name's Spike just for fun. I do that at coffee counters a lot. It's fun, but not with Best Buy. They're going to call me Kevin. Anything else? The little
Well,
thing
Les,
here.
the we will pay your money back less 17.
Because at the time of
17 what?
One of the things that offends me about a lot of the bad guys out there is they're not professional. They are sloppy, and I could see somebody fat thumbing 17 into this, or not explaining what the heck back less $17, 17 what?
I think the problem is they're not native English speakers, a lot of them.
Big time. And you can see that by please fill this form, which is the hyperlink, and then that extra space. Somebody who wants to use the more formal but conversational English, please fill out this form. Please complete this form. Please fill this form. Nah, that's what I call not kosher. Okay, now this one, what's being displayed, Dorothy, is a message, an email from manager Daniel Bridges, Daniel Bridges 33 at gulfslipformpaving.com. The subject is information. It's to Dave, lowercase d for Dave, and reply to is manager Daniel Bridges 33 at gulfslipformpaving.com. The message body has the USPS.com, two things that look like they could have been buttons, but maybe didn't resolve, but they're there, graphic. And it says, notification, our courier couldn't make delivery of the parcel to you at 20th August. Please print label and show it in the nearest post office. And there's a button there, print a shipping label now. Going with the subtleties here, there's one that I'll call out in a bit, but what do you see here that can tip you off? Colette?
Well, it's a very odd domain name for a shipping company, and they're not US. I mean, this is a USPS form. That's US Post Office. So no, this whole thing it just stinks.
That's a good term for it. Yeah. Once they get the olfactory technology going, maybe we can emit some noxious. Well, anyway.
No, don't want that.
I'm a nerd. Give me a chance. No, there's one other in here that is not visible. That is that this entire email can be a link in itself. What I mean is anywhere in here where there's not text or an obvious link could be a link. The whole email, and when you click on it, something probably not good is going to happen. The way to safeguard it is look at the email, don't touch. Look, don't touch. Look for what you can, call to verify, and do not touch. Don't click.
Oh,
Really hard for me to do. Fortunately, I haven't been caught, but I know of those who have, and I've read of others too.
I didn't know that.
It's sneaky, and fortunately, it isn't apparently used that much compared to those guys who think they're clever and getting you to click on a specific link. Ego on their part can be a friend of us. Okay. Okay, I've clicked to display a new slide, and this one is an email, and it purports to show from bank payment at epayment.com, subject new payment on your account. And the reply to is bankwire transfer department at gmail.com. The text says, please find attached bank slip for new payment on your account. Regards, account department. And then there is a link for an attachment for newpayment.zip. Okay. What do you guys think? Rita?
Totally unprofessional, totally not legitimate. I would eliminate, I would delete it immediately, and then I would go to my trash and delete it from there.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. What tipped you off?
Well, the whole thing, there's nothing that indicates the bank, number one, the name of the bank. So there's no logo. There's nothing that is corporate about the whole thing. Again, the domain, a bank wouldn't have a Gmail account, I don't believe. I've never heard of such a thing. And I've never seen .zip on anything other than a zip file.
You got him pretty good there, by golly. I do have to mention that the logo could be there very easily. What I'm showing is a partial email. They do like to include logos. They are very easy to lift from the web. You just click and copy and paste. That's it. That's good though, that you notice there's no logo, and that you notice that there's no bank name on this. The domain here, I talked about domain before. Here it's epayment.com. No, I worked for a corporation that worked with third parties to collect money, and those had their own domains. But when they were working on our behalf, they were working as us. And you could tell that because the domain was OIA Global and so on and so forth. The only other things to mention on this one, and Rita, you did a good job. .zip is actually legitimate. It's a file extension. I'm glad you called it out though, because it's not being used very much. And if you do see one, avoid it. The other thing is I've worked for I'm an older guy. I've worked around, and I have never worked for a company or a corporation that had an account department. They've always been accounting department. And when they list what department they have, they don't usually or ever put a period at the end of it. So all these things that we're talking about is awareness. Look at this stuff, question it. Don't click on it, if you're not sure where it came from, don't trust it, and verify it with a phone call or talking to somebody that's close, that's trustworthy, that uses that service. Again, just because I play with tech doesn't mean I'm the best resource. People you know very likely have the answer and can guide you to it. But please, I love finding out stuff I don't know about. Kay, what do you got?
Well, it's Colette, and
Oh, I see you too.
I was just going to say, sometimes I will go into Google and just Google the website, the link, and it will bring up, scam.
Right.
That's especially if I have never seen the name before, or even if I have sometimes, instead of calling them, I'll just Google it.
That's excellent advice. I got to admit, I'm one of those people who often sits in front of the computer wondering about the answer for something, in the field there to put in the question is right in front of me. Thank you, Colette. Anybody else on this, or pretty much anything else that we've been covering? Okay. You may be muted, Kay.
I'm not sure who you're talking to, Kevin.
Kay.
All right. Now
There
I've
we
got
go.
it. I have a fishing story.
Oh, please.
I have a beach house and I have it listed on HomeAway and Airbnb, but I don't list it on Craigslist. However, someone copied my entire site, all the pictures, all the information about the house, the description, everything, and posted it on Craigslist with then substituting where the deposit should be sent. And it happens over and over again. I can't get Craigslist to take it off. I flag it every time I find it. We had somebody show up last Christmas at the house and say, "Oh, I've rented this for Christmas," and we had to say, "No, you haven't." And he had invited friends to come and spend Christmas at the beach. But I get calls from people who say, "Well, I saw this on Craigslist," and they also, of course, have seen it on other sites such as, TripAdvisor, Airbnb, etc., and they inquire. So I always tell them how smart they are, because.
Very much so.
But I'm amazed. The biggest tip off is the price. They charge so little that it seems like it can't be true.
The ultimate attraction. Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. And that does bring to mind where they get the information for their scams, not just who to target or send the potential problem to, but where they get the information to set up their scams. That really is a good one, because there's nothing in there technical to tip somebody off except prudence and calling to make sure that, yeah, they've got it. It's kind of a horrible thing. Anybody else? It's fishing season all the time for these guys. Here's one from, looks like to be Nokia. Dorothy, on my, Rita, was that a question or a camera?
No, I just moved my screen.
Hard for me to tell, excuse me. What's on the screen now, Dorothy, is what purports to be an email from Nokia. It says, from Nokia, and the address is info@news.nokia.com. The subject, save your stuff, all in caps. Sign into your Nokia account before it disappears forever, ! The to is blank. The reply to is Nokia info@news.nokia.com. The message has the Nokia header, which is all blue with that lettering for Nokia in it. And the header is save your stuff. We noticed you haven't used your Nokia account to access Nokia services in quite a while. To protect your privacy, this account will be deleted in 14 days. So, and this is a hyperlink, so sign in now. If you haven't experienced Nokia services recently, they're worth another look. And it says you may want to keep things up to date and so on and so forth. You may want to keep your maps, locations, music, or other stuff associated with your account. It takes just a few seconds to sign into your Nokia account, and that last part was a hyperlink. We hope to see you soon. Space, sincerely, the Nokia account team. Subtle, subtle. What do you think this could be? And let's say this came to you.
It looks like they want to capture my sign-in information for my Nokia account if I had one, but I don't have one. So
It
this
kind of
goes out
looks
to
like that.
people. Somebody's going to have a Nokia account.
Anyone
I guess
else?
I would eliminate it immediately if I didn't have I would just delete it if I didn't have a Nokia account and knew I never did. And if I did have an account before I did anything, I would call Nokia.
You're doing good. You're doing good. The thing that would tip me off, and again, it's I'm not opposed to corporations, but I know them. Nokia is one of them, and I'm not at all sure that they would say save your stuff.
And I don't think so. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Nokia. My name's Kevin Tippett, and I'd like to be treated a little bit more formally. And quite frankly, I don't use Nokia, so this came to me. Why? You know, it's a tip off. The subtleties, you guys, are so subtle. What we've been talking about is primarily the missile, the rocket, no missile. Missiles are guided, rockets are just fired. Well, could be both. What we're going to talk about now, though, is the payload of that missile. Just like a missile has a payload, so does the phishing. And quite often they're viruses. Sometimes they can be keyloggers. For instance, a little bit of software, you click and now there's something on your machine recording and sending someone every keystroke you make on your computer. Very useful information. Another one is getting into the news quite a bit for its attacks on the hospitals and the governments. But we're now going to talk about payloads. And the one to worry about, because the antivirus will help and block the automatic ones, the viruses. What it won't block is a legitimate process that has been corrupted very well by bad people to deprive you of your information. What has happened and what happens is you get the email, it passes your view, you click on that link or that download attachment, and immediately your computer is encrypted. You cannot get to anything on it, and the only thing displayed is this message, or a message very much like it. And the message will have information. This is really just an example. And Dorothy, it's a message on a computer screen in red, and it's very almost violent looking to get your attention. And it says ransomware attack. It is an example of the message you'll get if it happens. And at the bottom will be instructions on how to pay the ransom. often with encrypted a currency. Bitcoin is one. And quite frankly, it's bulletproof. Very little can be done to unencrypt this without the key. Security experts some of them will say, pay the ransom. There's an honor among these thieves. They want it known that if you pay the ransom, you'll get your information back. I don't believe in honor among thieves or anything like that. They're a thief. They're going to steal it. If this were to happen to me, I would not pay the ransom. And that leaves the question of, what the hell can you do? Essentially, you can wipe every bit of information on your computer, all of it. You just turn it into a piece of hardware and you rebuild it. You can do that, and what you'll have is a rebuilt machine that is not encrypted. And if you want your information back, hopefully you are either using a cloud service or backups. Now, we alluded to the cloud service earlier about the Chromebook. The Chromebook uses the cloud service exclusively, and in that cloud, there are huge resources and vast amounts of money being spent to keep it secure and keep it backed up. So even though you're not backing up when you're using Google services or the Apple Cloud, it's backing up automatically for you to maybe 1,000 or more instances. The cloud is just all these computers working together, a lot of it for storage, and that storage is secure and backed up. So if you had a ransomware attack, conceivably you could, well, not conceivably, you could go to a different computer, take yours and donate it to the e-cycling program we're going to be cooperating with in Cloudstone, and go to a different computer, brand new one, build it, start it up, go to your cloud service, your information is there. Cloud service and backups are really the only mitigation for ransomware. Fortunately, with cloud services, you're almost being forced to use them. And that's really a good thing. Let's see, what else can I talk about with this? Colette.
So I have my passport that I have plugged in
Okay.
the time to save everything. That would not then be infected, right?
Correct. Once a ransomware attack happens, that's it. You can't do anything with the computer, much less back up the ransomware. So if you performed a backup and it occurred before the ransomware attack, which it would have to be, it's safe. Rebuild your computer, get a new one, install the program, restore your backups, you're good to go.
And one other question about the cloud. So how much does that cost?
It's going to vary. It's going to vary on the one you choose. I'm not going to recommend one, but if you're a Gmail user, you're a cloud user. Apple, I'm not that sure of, quite frankly. And I do know that Microsoft is really making advances on cloud services and will be phasing out installed software to a great extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have used Apple iCloud, and it's, they tell you how much space you've got and when things start going to the cloud, and then you can pay as little as $1 a month up to. I have a niece that has 4 clinics, and she does all of her billing. Everything is in the cloud, and she has so many units that she pays for, but again, she can do all of this and doesn't have to worry about security of her accounts.
It's a very good thing. Carol.
So with Gmail and Google accounts, they offer free cloud storage as well, up to a certain amount. And for most regular people, it's plenty. So I decided to copy or scan all of my photos, so all my years worth of photos, and I wanted to store them there. And so I needed some extra space for all those, because photos takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, there is some caveats to go with the cloud storage. As Carol mentioned, Gmail, you get a certain amount of free storage. And what occurred with me one time is I've got a great little phone, and I'm also an amateur photographer with the SLR and all that stuff. And I was putting my all my photographs. It was configured from my phone to upload them to the cloud. And after a fair amount of time, I started to get the message that it was full, that I couldn't, not that the cloud was full, but that I couldn't save any pictures. And cloud, I think. It was a while ago. But what happened was it filled up pretty quickly, that free storage with the pictures, and I just couldn't store anything more there. What I did is I didn't do as Carol did. I backed the important ones up and stored them somewhere else. And I configured my phone to not automatically upload pictures. Things are beautiful. I love them. I take a lot of pictures. It doesn't take much time to fill up that free storage. And I am cheap with some nerdish alternatives. But that's a caveat. Fortunately, these companies are so kind and gracious. They will offer to take your money in return for more storage.
I pay an extra $2 a month to have all the storage I could possibly need.
Yeah, it's really not that much. And I think that's true for all the services. One thing that is starting to fall out is the third-party cloud services a little bit. There used to be a lot of them that were simply a cloud service for holding your information. And because of the incorporation of the cloud into the actual computing, those are fading away. You could still find them, but I'd be careful. They do give notice that they're going to close down, and you should get your information. But I not to promote Google or Apple or any of those. I go with the big ones because I know they're going to be around there. I've only been caught once, and that was on something similar, and that's that I purchased a movie from Comcast so I could watch it again and again, and then I dropped Comcast and lost the movie. That sort of thing. Any more questions on ransomware and what could happen to you? Biggest thing is observe your emails, study them when they come in. Now, something that can be phishing, it can be a virus to trigger the delivery of those, is very much along the lines of phishing, and those are unsafe websites. Now, whereas phishing was kind of a rocket or a missile launched at you, I don't like the metaphor, but I can't think of a better one. Please consider unsafe websites as a landmine waiting for you to happen upon them. You can identify them, and And if you use a site that is unsafe or appears to be unsafe, and you know the people behind it, then it's safe. But you have to know that. You have to be able to trust it somehow. We don't usually know who's behind a website, and there is a tip-off if a site is at least meeting the minimum requirements for safety. There are requirements, they are out there, and people who maintain these systems buy into them and use them. And what I'm talking about, and on the screen before me is now a slide about unsafe websites. And it shows a screenshot of a website, actually an email, but it has a link in it. And the link, by the way, is from Portland Community College. And it says, schedule a one-to-one Zoom support training here. Now, on your computer, I believe it's the same for Macintosh, but could be a little different. If you position your mouse cursor over that link in the lower left-hand corner of your browser, Internet Explorer, Chrome, what have you, it will reveal the actual website, and it will be called, the name of it will be https:// sorry for this, portlandcc.zoom.us, and then some other stuff. I look at that address, I look at the link, I know this link is on an email from Portland Community College. I look at that address and I see Portland Community College. It's safe. The other thing to really pay attention to here is in the address in the lower left-hand corner, or in the URL address at the top of your browser, it's going to say HTTPS. That S is very important. It is going to signify that it's secure. That S, if it's there, means that site is paying attention to security and is enforcing those minimum requirements that are pretty good. If you don't have it there, you're looking at a website, obviously it's now HTTP without the S. They are out there. Probably many are legitimate. I myself would not trust them. It's just, there's no rules on a site that says HTTP without that S. And now, what I'm going to talk about, I mentioned to a couple of people and they said, that's what I want to know. So I apologize for making you wade through all of that other awareness stuff to get to the part where I can show you how to shop for something on the internet and not have those ads for that item follow you into other emails, into other websites, and just be intrusive and in your face at every step of the internet, it seems. Am I speaking about a pretty common experience? Has everyone sort of experienced this sort of thing? Okay, cool. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how it works, because if you know how it works, you can know how not to make it work. The internet is a wonderful place, and you surf it, and when you do, what will happen is a cookie. It's called a cookie. Cute name. I like it. We all love cookies. It will download this cookie, little piece of software, to your browser on your computer. And what that cookie will do is really generally good things. it's going to tell the website about you and you to the website. It's a good thing in many cases. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's a kind of cookie called a third-party tracking cookie. They are common. They are responsible for what makes those ads follow you around. I'll show you how to browse the internet, and those cookies won't be saved. They'll be destroyed or not downloaded at all onto your computer. Again, website, the cookie goes to your computer. And really, I should have an arrow here pointing back to the website because it does transmit information to it. Now, some of that site for information you really do want, I think. As an example, I trust the Best Buy website, so I accepted cookies. When I go back to it, it has my username already there. If I'm there and logged in, or not even, and I'm shopping, put something in the shopping cart and get distracted and go away, close the browser. Oh, wait, I was going to buy that real cool thing. Go back to the Best Buy website and it's still in the shopping cart. That, for me, that's a good thing at that moment. It's Best Buy. I trust it. And it's a cookie that made that happen. Tracking cookies are different. They're out there, they're legal, and they make capitalism on the internet possible by presenting you with a lot of advertising you don't need to see if you don't want to. What I'm talking about is private browsing. When you start your browser, you're in your social browsing mode and stuff happens, the cookies I talked about. If you're in private, that means a little bubble has been created. And that bubble will contain the information of your actions on the website and stuff just like all the other cookies. But it'll destroy it. It won't keep it. So there will be nothing on your browser to tell the internet, hey, I was shopping for a hedge trimmer, so please go ahead and display that ad for hedge trimmers at every turn. You can avoid that. What you do, and it's the same for all browsers, they call it a little bit different, but the way you can launch it for here, Internet Explorer, what I did on my Windows machine is I entered Internet Explorer to that little search field by the start, appeared on the menu, and on the right-hand side of the menu here, you can see your options. Open, which is just as if you just clicked on it to open it. You got to do different things to do the same thing in Windows, it seems. You can just open it, or you can open it in private browsing. Now here, Internet Explorer calls it in private browsing. And when you do that, that bubble has been created. Nothing is going to be saved to your machine to report back to anyone or anywhere what you've been doing. Thing about private browsing is you got to be aware you're in it, because a couple times I've been mad at a site for, I thought I configured this already. I was in private browsing. The way you know you're in private browsing, for each browser, it's a little different, but they do tell you. And for Internet Explorer here, it will tell you in the address bar at the top that you're in private. It says so right there noticeably. And while we're here, notice too, S. It's in the address bar. You can see it. Yahoo is the example here. Follows and enforces minimum security for us. Good thing. As I said, different for every browser, same thing, different names. This one is for Chrome. And the way I have it here is I have Chrome pinned to my taskbar on my computer. I right click on it with the right click of my mouse button, and I get a pop-up menu. And on that menu, I've got lots of stuff, but here towards the bottom, you can see new incognito window. That's what Chrome calls it, incognito window. When you got that going, you can tell by looking in the upper right-hand corner of your browser and seeing that you're in incognito, and it's very safe. Even your history isn't saved. So if you're surfing to different websites and you're incognito in private, close that browser. You know how you can go to a website that you've been to before and it'll be there? It won't happen that way because nothing was saved. Not unless that website is one you've already accepted the cookie from. Firefox, my favorite browser actually, very much the same thing here. You right click on the icon, either in the taskbar or on the desktop. In the taskbar, it's a shortcut too. Right click on it with your mouse button. And here you can see Firefox calls it new private window. And the tip off that you are browsing safely is going to be in the upper right-hand corner of your browser. And I think it's amusing to me. The tip-off is a little purple circle in the bar there at the top right-hand corner and what looks like a bandit mask. In this case, I suppose it means I'm at a costume party and you have to guess who I am because you're not going to know from this. You forget about in private browsing. I have, and then I remember because why am I looking at this ad for something I just shopped for but decided I wasn't going to buy? This has been fun. I hope there's going to be some more comments and questions and the like. Kay, please, what's going on? There we go.
How do I clear the cookies that might be there already?
That's going to be a little different for each browser. I'll tell you what, let me demonstrate that here once I finish out of this slideshow. Any other questions or concerns? And I do want you to know that after this is over, I would really like to hear from you, either a comment or a concern, and I will get back with you. Just a second here. There we go. Okay, if after this discussion someone occurs to you, please let me know. You can get a hold of us through riverseastvillage.org, our email, and we also have the phone set up. So if you call this number, you'll get to a voicemail. Please leave the question, comment, concern, who you are, and how I can get back with you, and I will. I promise. You can always beat me up if I don't. Now let's see if I can get towards showing you how to check. And let's see, new share, screen one.
We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me start up. And let me also show you here. I'm going to go into private mode to show you. Things work the same, it just doesn't stick. So to get to private mode in Firefox, I have the shortcut here on my desktop. I've right-clicked. Everyone's got a view, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there I can do scan with WebRoot if I wanted to scan a shortcut. There could be a reason for that. So open file. Oh, good Lord. They made a liar out of me this time. But I can do it down here if you have a view of my taskbar and go to a private window. Big tip off here, as you'll see, it's you're in a private window, but if I go to yahoo.com, which I hardly ever go to, that will disappear, but you can still tell up here I'm in private. It can be very useful. Now, this is Firefox, and the way to go about clearing the cookies, and the cookies are part of your history. All browsers have this function, others in slightly different ways to get about. But Firefox, let's see, options, privacy and security, if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
And here I've got tracking, protection, and all that sort of thing. I scroll down a little bit, and I have cookies and site data. Your cookies, blah, 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 are current. That's a big amount of space, by the way, and it's on my computer. So I'm going to clear that out, and I'm going to click clear data. And this is what I get. Clear it, clear now. And I use private view to show you, do it in your regular view as your regular browsing. This is how you can do it. You can also, in other browsers, same thing, configure things. So it will ask you, I like to be asked of the sites I trust, and it'll save those again for autofill, that sort of thing.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Kevin,
Yes.
how
Please.
about the little box that says delete cookies and site data when Firefox is closed?
Oh, I see. Thank you. That means that
I know what it means.
every time I close Firefox, it's going to clear out the cookies and the data.
Is that a problem?
It is for me, because a few websites I do trust, and I want that information there. So when I go to the website that I trust, it recognizes me, and I don't have to bother with various configurations or saving stuff that I do want a trusted website to save. If I had this checked and I close Firefox, I'm going to lose all that. So I don't do that. What I do is kick myself on those increasingly infrequent times that I forget to use in private browsing.
So it really depends on what you want.
It is. Colette, we know each other a little bit, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to recommend stuff. I'll suggest it. I'll say, please take a look at it. And I'll recommend that you look at it. But I'm not going to recommend the specifics.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's just helpful to know if you don't, I don't know that I'm going to remember to go to private viewing ever.
I don't know about that, Colette. It reinforces me when I see those bloody advertisements of things that I decided not to buy.
Yeah, I'll probably try them, but I don't, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to use them every time. So
I want you to know it's there, and we are coming up to the shopping seasons.
Okay, so you probably want to not click that. Okay.
Right. Especially, minor thing, but it occurs to me, I'm going to be shopping for stuff I personally don't want. Why do I want to see the ads for them?
Oh, yeah, there is.
May I make sorry.
Oh, please, Rita, what's up?
I browse and look at things online a lot. I do a lot of Google surfing. And then within just minutes, I go to my Facebook page and there are advertisements for the types of things I've been looking at. I'm thinking, wow, that was fast.
20 years, 30 years ago, I would have said, this is a good thing. I sell advertising. I want you to look at it. I'm a consumer these days, and I don't want to look at that stuff. I even object to billboards on the road, for crying out loud. I've mentioned that I'll be sending out some information, and I shall. It's going to be a couple of websites, actually, that I know of and trust. One will be a list of password safes for you to consider. Please go into it. Please look at them. This is what I do recommend. Use one. I've also got a link on there for some training, if you would like to. Non-credit, thing, but it doesn't hurt to know what's out there, and it's not geared for nerds or geeks. As a matter of fact, it's from the state of Pennsylvania. Free training that they line up for people. I wish a lot of people would take note of it, especially in things like the hospitals that are getting hit with the ransomware, which brings to mind something I really need to update you on, and that's that your software has to be updated. It really does. And what I'm talking about here is not buying the new version of Office or Quicken or anything like that. I'm talking about updating the version you have as long as it can be updated. And at that point, if there are no updated versions offered, then get the new version, even if you have to pay for it. The reason is, and it's very graphically illustrated when you look at a map of attacks, which are out there. You can see a global map with little pinprints, red ones usually, of specific cyber attacks. And when you do that, you're going to look and go, what is wrong with that part of Asia in Eastern Europe? They are nailed with attacks all the time. And I'm not going to go into politics, but I can go into the technical. Ukraine is really stepping up their efforts to buy and update legitimate software. In Eastern Europe, people use bootleg software quite a bit. And bootleg software cannot be updated, and that means it's going to very shortly be out of compliance with security and become a big fat target. You see that in Eastern European countries with their governments and the like. And here you see it with local governments, with schools, and with hospitals. You got to be cold to lock down a hospital. They don't care. They see a really easy target for two reasons. One, their software could be not up to date, even with HEPA. There's systems out there that need updating, that budgets don't allow for the staff and the equipment to make sure it's updated. And they've decided instead to spend the money on that MRI instead of their current software. It's happening less and less, and HEPA's a big step on that. But when you have software, please make sure it's up to date. If it's a cloud service, Chrome, Chromebook, your browsers too, now especially, they automatically update. But make sure stuff is updated. If you're using an installed program such as Microsoft Office, get all the updates you can. If it's a version that is no longer current and not updated, consider the alternatives or getting Office 365. It's a great product. It's a very expensive product. I don't recommend it for us because I'm not going to recommend much of anything. What I am saying is I do recommend whatever you're using, make sure it's up to date as possible. If you got an old program and the updates are being provided, keep using it. But all software has an end of life. And when it expires, software will still be there, but the support won't be. And the software will very short order become not compliant, is a polite way of saying it's a big fat target. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Gosh, I went over. I apologize.
You went way over. Yes, good.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good information.
Thank you. I
Hello.
appreciate your being here.